Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday, January 19th. I'm Alan Locher, and here we go. Margaret Colin's career began when she was first cast as Paige Madison on The Edge of Night. But soon after Edge, she joined As the World Turns and originated the role of Margo Montgomery Hughes, a role she played for 3 years and a character that remained on the canvas for 30 years. She has worked nonstop for the last 4 decades, appearing on film, in primetime, on Broadway. Movie fans will recognize Margaret for her roles in Something Wild, Three Men and a Baby, The Butcher's Wife, Independence Day, The Devil's Own, Unfaithful, and First Daughter, to name a few. Her primetime roles include Foley Square, Legwork, Chicago Hope, Now and Again, Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, Chicago Med, Shades of Blue, which I loved, and the HBO hit series Veep. But Gossip Girl fans know her well for her role as Eleanor Waldorf on the hit CW series, which she just reprised on HBO Max. Margaret met actor Justin Dees when he played her love interest and husband, Thomas Christopher Hughes, on As the World Turns. They were married in 1988 and have 2 sons. 34 years of marriage, about 7 years longer than Margo and Tom. I am thrilled Margaret is stopping by to take a look back at her incredible career. Please welcome to the Locher Room, Margaret Colin. Hello.
Hi. What a nice introduction. Thank you.
You are so welcome. It's so lovely to see you. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm happy to do it.
How's
sure
your
my cat's
family?
going to jump into the frame any minute now, so it'll be action as well as adventure.
Oh,
The
great.
family's good. We're freezing here in New York, but we're all good, thank God.
And your 2 boys, any desire to follow in yours and Justin's footsteps?
I think there's a desire, but it's a whole different world to break into now. I think there's a desire, and they've worked on some projects with me. They've done PA work, and they've done some off-camera and certainly some on-camera stuff. So they have an interest in it, but the pursuit of it is a little more roundabout than the route was for me and Justin. Yeah. It's a little more challenging. I mean, it's like a whole YouTube thing. It's a whole branding thing. It's a whole thing that has nothing to do with acting. So, I'm not really too helpful with them. And it's a challenge. I think it's really challenging to get into the business now.
I mean, most young actors, in New York had daytime as an opportunity. They went in for auditions. I mean, no one, there's no daytime in New York City. There's no, people aren't really going on auditions, because of COVID and the availability of technology. It's really a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Yeah. So I figure, it was challenging enough learning the lines, getting your look together and getting to the audition on time. And then, working with the casting agent, making the material come alive. That was the effort. And now you have to do your own set design, that plus your hair and your clothes and your makeup, learn the lines. And you have to have a technology that's 100% available, and you can't get you can't get flummoxed because the technology is beyond you, because then you're just you're sabotaging yourself. Do you have a feeling about how I feel about
this? maybe a little bit, especially because your son helped you today.
Yes. I don't know what you would have been looking at if he didn't help me, because I used to get my emails on my iPad, and the picture is much prettier, and I've done all the Zoom, but now for some reason my iPad won't get my emails, so I couldn't click and link onto you on my iPad. And then he's like, well, let's just sign into your email. I'm like, I don't have the time. But even with all that, we did a wonderful project at the beginning of this madness called COVID. In our house in North Carolina with a wonderful actress, producer, writer, friend of mine, Paige Hughes. And even with the frustrations that I have with all this technology, we were able to put together in like 7 different locations separate locations, a piece of material that was adapted for just that sort of technology. Everybody with their own. I mean, they shipped us laptops, they shipped us recording equipment, stands, and we put together this wonderful show called Virtue, which is available on Broadway on demand. And that was produced by Ninja Bear Cowboy, and as well as Peyton. And they figured out the technology which they have been using for the last 2 years by working with us. So like you do your own location scout in your apartment, you take all your clothes out of your house and throw them on the floor to see which ones they like, and then they shipped us different background things for lighting and to fill in bookshelves and stuff. It was amazing, and it turned out really great. One scene in particular, you thought we were all in the same room, genuinely, like characters that were supposed to be dining together were dining together. So, and the writing was pretty great. It was created as a stage show. And then adapted for sort of a multimedia extravaganza done in everybody's individual home, which now we're used to. But in May of 2 years ago, nobody was used to it. So even with the frazzling of the technology, it was a wonderful, freeing experience. So
was it just
when
you
I have
performing?
sufficient help, I can rise to the occasion.
Was it just you performing?
No, me and about 11 other people in 11 other locations.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
LA, Colorado, New York, North Carolina. Yeah, I can't remember all of them now. We were all in our different homes quarantining.
And you said it's called Virtue, and it's available on Broadway?
Broadway on demand, yeah.
Broadway on demand.
You have to pay $5 or something. Yeah, it was. I was thrilled to be part of it because it really reduced the anxiety of the technology, and it brought up. It was very immediate. It was very, and the producers were really calm and cool and collected, and were not. I mean, I did sound editing, and I did stuff I've never. I mean, of course, I've done lighting my whole life, but it was really cool. It was challenging and artistically, and I developed a whole technological background that I hadn't had since college.
That's awesome. I love that. And you were born in Brooklyn, but raised on Long Island. Where on Long Island?
Baldwin.
And what
South
was
Shore of Long Island, about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan, Baldwin.
What was Margaret's childhood like out there?
Great. One of 5, an older sister and 3 younger brothers, and parents who adored each other. And my dad was a police officer, and my mother was everything. Everything. Girl Scout, Boy Scout leader, PTA principal, political activist, home renovator, cook, cleaner, dance teacher. She was everything. And they had a really strong faith, Catholic faith, which they've passed on to all of us, all 5 of us. A very strong extended family in a big backyard. We had a big backyard, and I could watch the 4:30 movie and then go play all the roles that I saw on the television in the backyard.
Is that where the acting bug hit you, from watching movies?
I think so, probably watching the 4:30 movie. But even before that, I had my first role as the little old lady who loved noise in kindergarten in Milburn School in Baldwin. The insane dedication of teachers, public school teachers, can't speak highly enough of it. I think that's where the acting bug hit me, that I could take where I was playing make-believe in the backyard before 5 and translate that into something on stage, creating a little old lady who loved noise. I got the title role. So it was cool. It was great. It was great. The flight of the imagination and the acceptance and storytelling got me very early.
I love that. What were there actors that you remember admiring back then?
Oh, the standard, the standard ones. Katharine Hepburn, Betty Davis, Lauren Bacall, James Cagney. All those great dames. Eventually, a different palette as I got older. But yeah, the very beautiful independent women that were, you didn't have to define a film as a chick flick or an action adventure movie. It was the movie, and so everybody was allowed to follow a protagonist that was as highly developed as the roles for those women in those days were. Vivian Leigh, all of them. Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, as I got a little bit older, I would be home you're allowed to come home for lunch, and then it was that girl and Bewitched. I could watch a little bit of each of them and then run back to school for the afternoon. So yeah, those two shows were very influential.
Yeah.
And then eventually, Estelle Parsons and Diane Wiest and a huge amount of stage actresses and actors came into my awareness, so that they were dazzling and breathtaking, and it was a whole nother challenge. So while I watched people on television, what I was exposed to most in Milburn School by the incredible efforts of the public school teachers in their spare time was stage plays and community theater stuff. I think I did Desdemona at 13 with the Unitarian church. That was huge. That was a huge
Wow.
Yeah,
that is amazing. You like you said, you lived 45 minutes outside of the city. Do you recall your first Broadway show?
I think the first one, my mother took me to, if not opening night, then sure as hell a lot like opening night of Chorus Line, which was mind-blowing. They were really good seats, and it was mind-blowing. And I was fascinated with those gorgeous bodies and fascinated with the stories they told. And the thing that stands out the most is every time the chorus sang, shit, 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 my mother went, oh.
I can imagine that show being so impactful. The dancing.
Very impactful. Very impactful. Glamorous, gorgeous. Wrestling with a lot of things that we're still wrestling with, but in a way that really enveloped the audience, and like issues of race, issues of sexual aggression, issues of not being happy with your body, what you should change, how do you fit in, when do you stand up for yourself, and also the glorious experience of getting to act, to getting to sing and dance, tell a story in front of people, gathering in the dark, the whole drill.
Yeah, and that's you're giving me chills, because that show of getting the role, and I hope I get it. Wow, that's amazing. Well,
so
and then
my mother was very she was very important to my career, very supportive, had her own strong opinions, didn't like it when people, in college, I went to Hofstra for a hot minute, and she didn't like it when she was very upset that if I came home in bits because I got bad notes, or I got, the rehearsal didn't well and people were unkind or snotty, or, she was always my champion in that way, and always a huge fan of anything I tried to do. She was also very patient with my histrionics about trying to get better and push to another level of area of the entertainment, because I knew that I didn't want to stay on just play the one character on The Edge of Night, or again, the great fun of playing Margo with all those wonderful people I got to work with. So I knew that I wanted to go on to try other things in other arenas, other markets, and she was always really supportive.
Mom supported you, yeah.
And so did my father, but my mother was always in my corner.
That's amazing. Well, Paige Madison, from what I read, was an heiress and a former terrorist.
Yes.
Talk about getting that first role on Edge, and you worked with some pretty incredible people: Frances Fisher, Kim Hunter, Bruce Gray, Vasily.
Yeah, Vasily, that was his name. That's his name. And P.S. I love you, or P.S. your cat is dead. Wow. Cool. It was great.
What-
I had been doing a play at Hofstra, A Clearing in the Woods, by Arthur Lorenz, and the wacky Dr. Mason, who was a mentor of a lot of us back then, he cast me in it. And an actor, Mark Jordan, who had come to see lots of plays at Hofstra because he had a lady friend who either was there or saw plays. I didn't know her. He sent his agent's card backstage and said, I think you're ready to compete. And it was an agency that's not around anymore, Oppenheim Christie. And I called them and they said, sure, come on in. And I met them and then they said, come on back and do, 2 monologues. A comedy one and a contemporary one, a classic one and a comedy one, or whatever the combination was. And in those days, you had monologues ready. So I did, and they went, you're ready to go. And they sent me on this audition for The Edge of Night. And I got it. I mean, I auditioned, and then I auditioned many other people. They were auditioning like me, and then who would be my father and who would be my brother and stuff. And then I just stayed in the room and I kept, I sort of was in the zone and very, very comfortable. Yeah. And then I went to work, and Kim Hunter, the amazing Kim Hunter, who had just come off of, had just come off of the Planet of the Apes movies. But of course I knew her from Stella. And she tried to kill me 16 times because we were in a horror movie show. And I remember scenes with Frances Fisher where she was a police officer. And yeah. And then I was sort of Patty Hearst. It was vaguely based on Patty Hearst, but we moved quickly into a Hollywood movie company that moved into town to make a film, which was a horror film. So we left the as you do, we left the kidnapped heiress terrorist plot behind and went into making a horror movie.
As you do in daytime, you move
Exactly.
quickly and
Yes.
and as if it never ever happened.
Yes.
What was it like? You had done so much stage at that point, because you started so young. What was it like stepping in front of cameras for the first time?
It was relatively easy because they ran The Edge of Night at that time was run like rehearsals. You did rehearsals, you did rehearsal in a rehearsal hall, then you did a blocking rehearsal, and then you shot it like on your set, and everybody was on their set at the time, at the top of the show, 10 minutes before. Everybody was in obviously hair and makeup and on the set, ready to go, and the cameras moved from set to set, as though it were, stage work, as though it were live. And they were very patient with me because I had a lot of energy. I used to jump up and down to get my energy going, and maybe there were no headsets, or like maybe listen to music on a boom box in my dressing room to get pumped up. And I remember Kim Hunter staring at me and then talking to the really wonderful stage manager, wonderful lady stage manager, who came over and said, Margaret, I realize that this is part of your process, but imagine how other people feel when this isn't their process to get ready for a scene. And so, of course, like now I'm so much older than Kim Hunter was when I worked with her. And I could just imagine seeing a jumping maniac in the corner when I'm trying to concentrate on my lines. Like, oh my God, somebody shut her up. But yeah, they were, I took to the camera very easily. I took to the camera very, very easily.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the audition for Margo? Was Betty Ray casting World Turns at that time?
Betty Ray, the great Betty Ray. Yeah. Yeah, I stayed friends with her for decades. I don't remember too much about it. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I'm sure I went to the studio.
Right. Did you have to screen test?
I don't remember the audition for that so much.
Do you remember if you had to screen test?
I imagine I did. Yeah. And then there was a waiting pattern to find out about it. And then I would go back to Long Island by the train, and then they'd get the call on the house phone because there were no cell phones. And I'm sure I didn't have an answering service. I think there was a lot of screaming and yelling in the backyard, leaping for joy. I mean, I couldn't believe my great good fortune, and that I'd be working in New York City. And yeah.
And were you
And I
living
think
on Long Island?
Margo started out as, I remember the first scene that I was there. They didn't shoot it the same way. It was an hour show. It wasn't the same. And we rehearsed it up in the rehearsal hall. And then we came down to the set stage and we blocked it. And then I said, well, what do I get dressed for? And the answer was not too specific. So they said, get dressed for the first scene that you're in. Well, the first scene I was in was a nightgown, and they rehearsed out of order. So I remember standing on the set with Don Hastings and Kim in a nightgown, which is what I was supposed to wear. It wasn't my own personal nightgown. It was my costume in a nightgown. And the director, who was a bit of a shit, got on the mic and said, my dear, why are you in that? I said, because I was told to dress for the first scene I'm shooting in. And then I could hear him laughing at me. And then, which was, humiliating at whatever tender age. I think I was 19 when I did The Edge of Night. So As the World Turns was maybe 19, 20 years old. And, but they all stood up for me. And then when we actually got me into they changed the order of the scenes, and I didn't want to be late. So, I defended myself, but nevertheless, there I was with everybody else in their street clothes and me in a nightgown. And this is, hi, I'm Margaret Colin. And and I remember them saying, I had a faint in the actual scene that we were shooting. And I was like, I don't know how to faint. And then Don Hastings was like, well, just start going down and let your knees go. And then I went, oh, okay. Because they hadn't taught, I didn't stay in school long enough to learn about fainting.
I'm surprised Don didn't make a joke. He actually tried to help you.
Don very much tried to help me. I think it was because the director was being such a poop that they saw that I was trying hard, and they were the usual, what I find to be the usual camaraderie of actors. They were taking care of me because they knew I was getting a hard time from the director.
Were you living on Long Island when you got the part? So were you commuting?
Yeah, I was living on Long Island when I got the parts.
Wow, amazing.
And then I commuted. And I had relatives in the city. My Aunt Muriel had an apartment on East 70th Street. So I remember walking from East 70th to where we shot The Edge of Night in the East 40s. And that was a nice hike. And that was a big introduction into Manhattan.
Yeah, where Justin ended up working at Guiding Light was
That's right.
Where Edge was. Yeah,
that's right.
That building was torn down. It's now, I think, an apartment building. Sadly.
Wow.
I don't. Yeah,
well, one of the places we shot As the World Turns turned into a mental hospital.
That's fantastic. One of our viewers, Freeman, said, I ran home from school to watch Margaret as Margo every day. Happiest on days when Margo was on, the beginning of the Margo and Barbara feud.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You and Colleen.
Me and Colleen and Anthony Herrera, God rest his soul. Yes.
God rest his soul. Well, I'm glad you just brought up Anthony, because I learned Anthony used to jump up and down. Did he do that at that time?
Yeah, he jumped up and down. He would come to rehearsal in the clothes he wore, the tuxedo that he wore out the night before. He was very dashing and very fun. He was a lot of fun. He was very old school. He was a good guy.
What was it about Margo that made you want to take that role?
It was a great part, and it was a part that paid with it. And obviously the business end of it was a great opportunity. I was at school with people who were hoping to get summer stock jobs and 13 people in a room, and so I got a
contract.
Yeah, I got a contract, and I was on national or international television. I think that I looked like the Procter and Gamble person. I looked like the product that they were hiring. I think frankly that was a lot of it. And I think there was Margo just like completely believed in what she wanted and then ran straight forward for it, even if that was crashing into a wall. And then she kind of pick herself up, cry a little bit, and go the next way. I don't think she had a lot of insecurity. And I think I really worked with some, I know I really worked with some great actors who,
Larry Brigman.
Larry Brigman was a huge part of developing me as an actor. And the writing was, when the writing was great, the writing was really terrific relationships for every part that I played. And I just think I jumped right in probably because I had such great relationships at home, and I had studied enough theater to believe strongly in what was on the page, the relationship. So, yeah.
Talk about Larry and working opposite Mr. Brigman.
He was great. He was not intimidating. He was a cursor. He cursed a lot. He cursed more than a lot of people I had been around then at that particular age. And then, of course, Justin just fixed that. Justin just changed. He jumped into the material. He didn't like people making, like giving away like what the character was, like the other people in the scene judging his character, like, oh, he's the worst person in the world. He's like, well, thanks a lot, because I'm not the worst person in the world. I'm someone who's desperately in love. And he helped me to see the background and the reasons why characters would make the choices they were. And he would settle in with a calmness, and he had great stories, and he was a huge defender of the actor. I'm still kind of a real big believer in us and them, us being the storytellers, the actors, and them being everybody else. So, because to protect the work that we do, that doesn't mean I put them down, or I'm not respectful. I 100% appreciate all the work that everybody does to get something off the ground that isn't the actor. But I do think that you have to, I know that I have to protect what I do to make it good, to make it unique, to bring the best I have to the party. And sometimes that's just, protecting myself, recognizing that my goals aren't always the goals of other people around me in a production. So Larry was a big champion of that. And he's charming as hell, dashing. You never knew when he was going to turn and be, laser-like romantic or, incredibly caring at the drop of a hat. So yeah, he was wonderful. We had a great time.
And I can only imagine. You're right out of school, basically working opposite someone like that. You probably absorbed every minute of that opportunity.
Yeah, probably too much. Probably I was like, I don't have to take this shit way earlier. Because Brigman was a little bit of that. So
that's so funny. And what do you remember about Mom, Ann Sword?
Oh, Annie was delightful. She was like 5 minutes older than me, and she's playing my mother. And she was on before me, so her friends were all going, well, that's hysterical. This woman's coming on playing your daughter, and it would be impossible. So that was a very good preparation for me to have exactly the same thing as I went on in the business. She was delightful, easygoing, a little more with not withdrawn, a little bit more staid. She saw the character as Lila as a little more maternal and proper. So that also gave me a wonderful thing to push back, to be Margo and be more effervescent, to be more impetuous. And of course, the idea that, and then she got to be, my mother, which meant that she must have had sex with Larry Brigman, which of course was fantastic. Yeah, and I'm still friends with Annie to this day. We actually went sailing before COVID. We went sailing on a catamaran in Tortola together. So yeah,
amazing.
She's a huge gift to my life. She's a huge gift.
Fans ask about her.
She opened up my mind about Native American. She's very big with Native American College Fund. So I learned an awful lot about Native Americans and life on the reservation. And I've been her date at a lot of the fundraisers, and I've gotten to meet a lot of people who benefited from that fund. So she really she awakened me to a whole area of people that I could learn about and help and champion. Yeah, she's
like
a
a mom.
I love her. She's a good
like
mom.
a mom, you know, teaching. Yeah. And then Scotty Bryce was brought on to play your brother, right?
Yes, that was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
He's a fun. I mean, people love that whole family, the Montgomerys, you know.
Yeah.
They really, you know, and the fact, you know, I know it, you know, an actor leaves a role, but Margo remained on the canvas for the remainder of the show. That's, you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I ran into Hillary Bailey Smith somewhere here in Manhattan, and I think she told me she was living on a boat with her husband. And I thought, oh my God, that is so adventurous. I think.
Did you know her?
Well, I mean, Justin continued to work with her, so I
right. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, but I knew of her. We did never work together, and then when we would see each other, you know, it was hail fellow well met. She was also working with my husband. So, you know.
She sure did. Well, speaking of your husband, do you remember first meeting Justin as the world turns?
Yeah.
What stands out in your mind?
He was crazy.
I love how you're whispering that. Crazy, gorgeous, talented for sure.
Gorgeous, built, passionate, really focused on the work. They gave him so much to learn. When our paths crossed in the scene, maybe he was also hanging around with Leonard Melfi, the great playwright. They were fast, wonderful friends, but Leonard was an eccentric kind of guy, very passionate. Justin was doing his plays. Justin was doing at least 3 jobs at once. He was auditioning for great things at the same time, doing plays, doing the show. I don't know how he managed to get it all done, but he was very passionate doing his lawyer speeches and screaming and yelling hard on himself when he got it wrong, hard on the powers that be when they made him start again for a technical reason. And I called up my mother. I said, well, you don't have to worry about this one, Mom. He's crazy. I'm not going near him.
And how wrong you were.
There you go. We went together for a long time, like 8 years before we got married. So we both did a lot of things that we wanted to do, but you know.
Well, and Margo and Tom got married before Margaret and Justin got married.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was a lot I wanted to do. There was a lot more. There were a lot of other opportunities I wanted to pursue before. You know, when I said goodbye to As the World Turns, which was really hard. It was very emotional. I mean, I made the intellectual decision, and the career decision and the financial decision, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to not see those amazing people every day. The cameramen were such good friends of mine as well, and the hair and makeup people became very strong confidants and friends that I saw outside of work. It was an incredible group. And of course, I was, you know, growing up. I was moving into the city and making decisions and growing up and falling in love and making, you know, life decisions with Justin. So it was a huge time. And also I knew that I wanted to play other roles and maybe even be in a different
you really did.
Arena.
You really made those.
There was a little bit of a prejudice against soap opera actors then. So if you were one-on-one medium, then it was really hard to break into the next one. And I remember when I finally got a job at Ensemble Studio Theater, they hired me to be in a play called House, I think. And I remember coming out from the audition and the callback and just like looking up at the sky, yelling at God like, this, I can't have this. Come on, this. And then I got
it. I mean, it's, you made a decision, at such a young age, really. You knew you wanted to move on. You had a steady paycheck. I mean, that's really impressive. Like, you really had goals and you stuck to them.
Yeah. Well, I also think I also kept my life, like as I said, my parents were people of faith, and so I knew a lot about who I was, being a woman of faith, being a Catholic woman. So a lot of the, challenges that a lot of people meet today, I had them all. I had a faith structure that helped me make the choices.
Right.
And that really helped keep my life in order so that I could pursue things. And then, of course, there's falling in love with Justin, which I would have been a fool not to.
Talk about working opposite him. From one actor to another. What do you think of him? I mean, I know you think he's incredibly talented, but what is it like to work opposite?
It's like working with a hurricane. It's he would have a speech where he was supposed to make love to Margo, convince her that kissing him was a good idea, convincing that loving him was a good idea. And he would break up the speech and say it in just a way. And then after I got used to it, because not a lot of people have that kilowatt of attention and passion and technique coming at them, trying to convince them to love them, which Tom was doing with Margo. And eventually Justin did with me. And I just thought it was dazzling. I mean, I knew it was dazzling. I knew how it made me feel. I knew that this was amazing work. I knew he was sexy as hell. And I also was like, it was real. He wasn't like, it was real because great acting is real. So, so that was wonderful. And as time went on and people would say, well, how do you feel when you see your husband doing those scenes? And when he says that, I said, I'm just really I'm really happy for the women he gets to dazzle like that, because not a lot of women know what it's like to feel that laser attention and that beautiful attack on material and words, and finding poetry and everything and beauty and everything, and also gazing at you and appreciating what you have, which is a lot of reason why I love him as Justin, but also seeing him do that as an actor. You were like, holy smoke, this is a lot. And then then you found out where to zig and zag with that. And he would rehearse it one way and, run lines with you, and that'd be great. And then he'd come, the door would be open and I'd be pursuing my goal. Like I'd pursued it in the rehearsal, and I pursued it in the running of the lines. And then he would be, doing the cha-cha with his lines, following me around the set. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You're doing the cha-cha.
And that's probably surprises. And that's probably why every on-screen relationship he's had has worked.
That's right.
He
finds he doesn't judge anybody else's ability or acting ability. He does the best he can. He finds things to love and about each person he works with, and he also is a really great interpreter of the material. Like I just did Carousel. On Broadway, I played Mrs. Mullen, the owner of the Carousel, and people would come to see the show. When we'd have long conversations. Joshua Henry played Billy Bigelow, and we would have long conversations about, was the character redeemed? I mean, in the world. And I tell you, it was well into the run of the show, after a month and a half of rehearsals and 6 weeks of previews. And somebody says, well, why, how does Billy get redeemed? What does he do in the second act when he dies and then he goes to heaven and he's sent back to earth to try to redeem himself, to find something so that he won't go to hell, so that he'll, can make the world a better place and grow, his soul will grow. And so we were kicking around with many different groups about what it was. And then eventually Justin, all these years later, says, Jigger takes away his hope. The character Jigger, the person that gets him in trouble, that gets him dead, that gets him to steal and do this thing, he takes away his hope. People like us don't ever achieve. You're never going to get what other people have. So Jigger takes away Billy's hope. And what Billy gives to his daughter is hope, because she's on the trail. You can see she's on the track to be just as destructive as he was, but he gives her hope. And so in the story, what's written is that she can turn around after she sees her father, and that she knows she's loved, and that she has hope. And of course, they write these gorgeous songs about it. Nobody said that. Nobody said that in all the rehearsals. Nobody said that anywhere. He didn't say it to me, and he just knows it. He just knows it. And of course, hope is huge. Without hope, we're in some of the madness we've been in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
with hope,
seriously.
You see change. You see people stepping aside, better ways of making theater coming into play. So that's my husband.
Yeah.
That's Justin.
Well, what do we got to do to get the two of you on stage together or on screen together again?
I have no idea. He's very, he's just as liable to get it and quit if he's working with me than he is, I don't know.
Well, I know
I don't do that
would,
anymore.
people would love to see it.
Yeah, I would love to do it too.
I mean, there is an audience. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
You joined the cast of the hit series Gossip Girl in episode 4, playing Eleanor Waldorf, to the mother of Leighton Meester's Blair. Can you articulate what the whole experience of Gossip Girl has been like?
Well, I was recurring, so I had been more appreciated on other shows where I was a regular under contract and written for. So this was a supporting role, but it was really great. Eleanor had some real teeth, and I kind of like playing her more before she became nice with Wally. She got married and then she was nicer. I liked playing what I called the evil Eleanor, because if people didn't love her the way that she expected to be loved or deserved to be loved, she used the power that she had to balance things out, and I enjoyed playing that very well.
Well, and you, as a fan myself, you understood where Blair got it from.
Right. Right. And then also the dicey home life, that money fixes everything. But I was really, really fortunate because Leighton was a delight to work with. And she was completely, again, she was there to be the best actor she could be, to work material the best that she could, to develop relationships. And those young people were under a lot of pressure from CW. They had a huge publicity commitment. So there was a lot going on, but the opportunity of being on Gossip Girl and being part of that whole fashion world, in and out, and then also meeting a whole nother audience was fantastic. Meeting a whole nother generation of young people was really great.
Well, I can tell you, Margaret, my job before COVID hit, after As the World Turns and Guiding Light went off the air, I had spent the last 10 years working for a TV and movie tour company. And we do a Gossip Girl tour around New York City, showing fans from all over the world where the show has filmed. And they continually come to New York just to see where you guys filmed that show. I mean, the impact of that, it's incredible. Some people have come 2 or 3 times from Australia just to take, and see where, that show. It's just, it really. Yeah, it's really something. Really something. Candace, one of our viewers, wants to know, what's the best and worst advice ever given?
Oh, my mother kept telling me get my tits done, which I just don't think was very good advice.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's like probably from Chorus Line. She probably learned it from Chorus Line. The best advice I give is for if you want to be an actor is to do it everywhere you can. I don't mean in porn. I mean do it in community theater. Do it readings at people's houses. Do it everywhere you can.
Well, what grade did you say you started? You were in kindergarten?
I started, like I said, in my backyard and in grade school, and then I did community theater with at 13 as doing Shakespeare, my first Shakespeare, and then I only did Shakespeare again when I was in Central Park doing Hamlet. I played his mom, Gertrude, to Michael Stuhlbarg's Hamlet. So I don't do a lot of it. I'd like to do much more of it because you don't have to elevate that writing. The writing's there. I spend a lot of my time elevating the writing. So the best advice, also turn off the screens. I mean, I used to tell people to turn screens off, like phones and computers and television. You know, go live, have organic, genuine experiences. Living through a screen is not nearly as good as taking a walk or going to the zoo and seeing, being with real, live, living, organic things. Worst advice would probably be, the idea that I should have sex with someone that I wasn't in love with or married to. I mean, that would probably be the worst. And all of us, not all of us, many of us have had, it was just something that we had to get used to. An inappropriate crossover of sexual advances and attitudes towards women and certainly towards men that would benefit you in the business if you accommodated that desire, and that's never a good idea. It's never a good idea.
For sure. Well, I was also a fan of Shades of Blue and really bummed that show was canceled. But here for Shades of Blue, you got to work with Ray Liotta 31 years after you two starred in the film Something Wild. What was it like having the opportunity to work with him again?
Well, he'd gone a little deaf by then, so it was pretty hysterical. But he's a big hunk of man when we did Something Wild, and he was, and that was his first movie, and then he was very charming and funny with me, like, hey, you're in my first movie, now you're in my first TV series, and I replaced the character that had been playing his wife. It was great seeing him again. It was great. He was playing a real psycho guy with the guns. And on the, I remember coming in one day.
And a bisexual. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that first season of that stuff was and like violent and sociopathic. And I was like, I don't know how to play being married to him, because my father was a New York City police officer for 26 years, and wow. This casualness with the gun around the house, the casualness of cleaning your gun on the dining room table, and the murderous, of course he was a murderous, corrupt cop. So I was like, how well do I know? I mean, what am I doing all day that I don't notice it? So it wasn't the best setup for me, because the character wasn't fully fleshed out. So, look the other way. You don't have to put up with it, or all sorts of things. And then it was really amazing being around Jennifer Lopez, this insane powerhouse, who looked at me from as I was the first day that I was on the set. I think was in a hospital, and she was there, and she came down the hall with her group of ladies that get her ready, and the whole of the set. And she looked at me, and the look on her face, the recognition, and then the pull back, and the list, and it was exactly the whole thing of, I watched you before. Where do I know you? Oh, it's my mom. It was all on her face. So I think it was probably Margo. So I mean, it was I was happy to get the gig. They treated me really well. It was a little challenging because I didn't really understand what world that woman was in. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
I love that. So you must get that a lot, though, because you are, in a lot of ways, a character, right? You're a character actress. I mean, you're in so many, you really have worked, like I said in the intro, nonstop in so many different things. So people see your face and they're trying to place what role is it?
Yeah.
Can you,
I think
you can immediately tell?
No, well, of course, now with, the masks, we've got 2.5 years of masks. And we've also got, there's so much product people are used to see, there's a lot of product out there. There's a lot of other things for people to watch. So I can't immediately tell, but usually if I have makeup on and they hear me talk, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I'm screwed in that it's going to take me a lot longer to get where I really had to go. If I was in a hurry, I'm screwed. But
yeah, the voice definitely.
The boy, yeah. And if the face is painted, and then they hear me talk. But also, it was, I volunteer at a soup kitchen. It was a very happy thing that came into my life here when we moved back to Manhattan. And it will be really fun when somebody goes, okay, I need the cups, or where do we put the, I need more masks, or where are the aprons? I go, I'll take you down. Come on, I'll show you. Or can you pick up those pans? We'll wash them in the kitchen. And they'll pick up the pans and we'll go and head towards the kitchen. And they go, were you Blair's mom on As the World Turns? Were you Blair's mom? I said, yes, I was. She goes, well, that's cool. And then we just start scrubbing. So that's only the voice. It's the voice that they hear. So.
Incredible.
But
Incredible.
It's very fun. It was particularly fun to come out of the soup kitchen again, and in the middle of like a 3:30 on a Saturday, and then in the spring when the brides would be going in to the church, because we worked at St. Joseph's Church here in Manhattan on the Catholic Church, and the brides and the wedding party would be going into the church upstairs, and we were coming up from downstairs, and then the whiplash that they would get, because it was pre-COVID, about seeing Blair's mom there. It was like, really, it was entertaining for a lot of people. But I was like, get married, go, get married.
Yeah, I could see a lot of them running towards you rather than to the altar. Very funny. You've done so many characters on film. Is there one that stands out as your favorite?
Well, I'm really grateful to Connie in Independence Day. That was huge.
Yeah,
that was the biggest film, the biggest budget film that had ever been made at the time. It was the first time I was with a level of production on that high, and the tour that was around it, the publicity that was around it, the boost to my work, and the other people I got to act with was certainly career-wise and acting-wise, it was was fantastic. I did a lot of movies of the week for CBS, and then a couple for Showtime, which were. And then even the Lifetime movies, they were when the character is, when I play the lead character and can have so much to do about her journey and telling her journey and fleshing out the character and how she feels and what she wants and what her flaws are. Those were very, very important to me. Yeah, I got a big kick out of Three Men and a Baby. That was silly and very fun. And Tom Selleck and I have worked together a bunch of other times. And some of those friendships have stayed, like Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen. Some of those friendships have continued. I just did a nice partner movie called Road to Galena that hopefully, it's an independent film, hopefully will find an audience. And she was a woman she's a woman who runs a law firm. It's her law firm. And she's grooming the leading character, and there was a lot of levels to that. It was a new filmmaker with some really strong values and visions, and turned out really physically beautiful film and very positive. It's a triangle of young people in high school, and we follow them through their life till they come to decisions about what they should do with their lives and careers and where their hearts really lie. So that was pretty great, and hopefully that will find an audience, like I said. So
is that for a streaming platform or?
No, that should be released theatrically. Yeah,
Oh, great.
they're on the road to finding that. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it'll be streaming, but
That's great.
yeah,
And
I guess playing Jackie and Jackie on Broadway. My stage debut, my Broadway debut here in New York was huge. Playing Jackie Kennedy, and that was a nice long run at the Belasco. So I'm really
so
that was a
I
gift.
was going to ask, Jackie was your first Broadway show?
Yeah,
Playing, wow.
yeah. I got a Theater World Award for that, and
Were you
made a lot of
nervous?
good. Victor Slazak is still a dear friend of mine, and
Were you
other
nervous playing
other.
such an iconic character?
I busted my ass to get there. The audition process was really hard. The Gip Hoppy, the guy who wrote it, had a huge platform for me to rest on in what he wrote, uh, and it was a comedy. We were sort of making fun of the Kennedy family, treating her with enormous respect, but making fun of the circus that is sometimes had been the Kennedy family, and certainly is still our politics.
I was just going to
Um,
say, still a circus for the Kennedy
yeah,
family.
and still the world of American politics is hysterical. Um,
To say the
so,
least.
but the really great thing was there was so much recorded on her. There was so much television and interviews. There was and tours of the White House. There was so much to learn about her. I grew to admire her enormously. What she accomplished, how she handled her marriage, how she handled her growing up, her facility with language, her education, her arts. I admired the heck out of her, and I was very flattered that I would get notes backstage from people, gifts and letters backstage from people who knew her and
Wow.
were very complimentary about my work in it. But it was a great fun show. It was a great show.
Love
So yeah, it
that.
was
Love
fun.
that. You won also a Screen Actors Guild for being part of the ensemble to Veep. Did
Yeah.
you model news anchor Jane McCabe after anybody?
Um, no, no, I think I watched a lot of news, and I fell into that group remarkably easily. Um, the language there, the foulness of the language is mind blowing, and then also quite a lot of fun because I don't have the cleanest mouth in the world, nor do I want to have the cleanest mouth in the world. But so they took it to another level, and again, she was. She's holding on to her job. She knew what she was doing. She wasn't going to let young people push her out of the way. All those things are really fun.
Were
But
you a fan of the show before?
yes, but even more so when I was cast, and I binged it like crazy. I have to watch it twice. I had to watch the episode twice because I couldn't follow the politics and also be dazzled by, Julia Louis' timing, and all of them, what they could do. But I had a lot of fun working on that. They wrote for me, they lit for me, they dressed me, they accommodated my schedule, and the character was outrageous. And all, all the different kinds of newscasters you can watch on television. Yeah, and they had their own time in the gossip columns as well. So sometimes the sing-songiness of some reporters, I certainly used that. The way that they spoke with absolutely no inflection that made sense to me as a human being, I completely enjoyed that. And being that freaking competitive is always a lot of fun.
Yeah, that show is phenomenal. Well, before
Yeah.
I let you go, you mentioned this early in the interview about your mom. Your mom, I think you said, was politically active. Is that where you became politically active because of your mom?
I think that's where everybody in my family did. Yeah. Yeah. We, yeah. It was conservative family. So their first, and I am as old as I am. So growing up in I was really lucky to have a wonderful innocent childhood to the best that my parents could give me. So they could form us, they could love us and let us see the beauty in the world and in nature and in each other and in God. So that structure came. So when certain causes come to awareness, like I wasn't completely aware of all of the things that were happening in the 60s. So that because I was young and protected. But my father was a police officer in New York, so certainly things came into the home, and there was a lot of worry and care and praying for my dad and the country.
I'm sure.
So mom and dad became politically active, and so the reasons for them becoming such champions of women and children was easy to relate to, and also because my mom was so loving and caring and inclusive, of people in all crisis situations. I could learn from her, and I happily continued the work on behalf of women and children and parenting women and men in colleges and struggle so that women get the things that they need to face the challenges of pregnancy and raising a child. So yeah, I do it politically, and I also do it on a resource way, trying to get resources to these women and children.
Well, women's rights are more important now than ever with everything going on. So keep up that fight.
Thank you.
Margaret, I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, you're so charming. Thank you.
Please tell your husband I send my love to him, and the fans send their love to him. So good to see you. Stay safe.
You as well. This was a pleasure. I'm so happy to go back over all these happy times, and I'm so grateful for the people that like my work and when they make my day by saying hello to me in D'Agostino's, at the soup kitchen, in the subway, in the airports, everywhere I go. People frequently say, well, isn't that hard? Does it bother you? I said, to have strangers come up and say they love you, that is mostly my experience of the people. It's 100%. The people who come up to say something to me, they say, oh my God, I love you. So I love you right back. And I thank you for all those incredible moments of surprise joy in my life.
That's awesome. Give me a big smile. I'm going to take a quick picture of us. 1, 2, and 3. Margaret, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My great pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Margaret Colin. What a pleasure. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a show. Tomorrow, the cast of the new web series, The Disappointments, Rich Burns, Trevor LaPaglia, James Mitchell, and Getty Watanabe will join me live. Have a great evening, and please stay safe, everybody.